Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, your go-to podcast for all things green and growing. I'm Ben, your allotment guide, and here to help you cultivate your garden and your passion for plants. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Each episode will dig into tips, tricks and techniques to make your garden and allotment thrive. From planting, sowing and growing, we will share all the tips and advice. We will also have regular episodes talking about what we have been up to on the allotment. So sit back, grab a brew and enjoy today's episode. Hey everyone and welcome back to Gardening with Ben for another brand new episode. Well, these are the new episodes for the week. Over the weekend we talked about all the things that we've been getting up to down at the allotment. Well, today's episode is we're going to talk about planning your allotment for springtime, planning the best allotment for the springtime and planning your best garden. And we've touched on this quite a few times, and I'm getting prepared, ready for the springtime. As you know, all my allotments pretty much cleared and tidied, ready for next year now, and we're getting it all settled, ready for the new season ahead. So we're going to be looking at what we're going to be growing next year and how we're going to plan it out and keeping a record of how things are growing and getting on. Now, every single year I purchase myself a gardener's logbook, and you can usually buy them off Amazon or from different shops, or if you just want to buy a normal diary and keep a note in there. But I usually buy a garden logbook and support a local support online businesses and stuff like that. So I like to buy one of them, and I usually do that for writing down all the things that I'm growing that month or that weekend, when I planted it, how I planted it, the temperature of the month when I was planting it, just like keeping a record of everything, and when I planted it out, when I harvested it, which varieties I grew and how well it grew and whether I'll grow it again. So I like to keep a record of things that I'm growing so that I know what to purchase the year after or what not to buy if it did absolutely rubbish. So I like to keep a log of that, and that's one way of planning for next year, because you can look back and see how successful things were and whether you'll think about doing it again next year. So we've done that. And the next up is obviously planning our allotment. Every year I draw a plan of my allotment. It's not changed much over the last few years, my allotment. I'm keeping it in the same style as I've always got it now. As I've got the layout sorted, it's all pretty much a good layout. I've got my paths laid, I've got my beds where I want them to be, and I've got all my fruit trees where they're growing. I won't be moving any of those, obviously. All my strawberries are in a special strawberry patch through some black membrane. They're all pretty much straightforward, and yeah, everything's in its own place. So I've just got my beds, my growing beds, where I grow all my vegetables for that year. And obviously I like to improve the soil every year and add some nutrition into it. But obviously we don't want to be growing stuff in the same place as last year, because obviously that plant's taken out some nutrition from the soil, so there might not be that nutrition for that certain plant in the soil. So we have to move things around. So I like to draw a plan of all our beds and write down what we're going to be growing in each bed and what variety will grow, or yeah, we tend to do that and just like make a plan of it all, just to give us an idea where things are going to grow. We'll probably change things as we go along, because we'll end up shoving things in gaps, and if a plant don't grow, we'll plant something else there. But we tend to stick to that plan. And again, you can save a copy of that and look back on it the year before to see what you actually grew in them beds, because if you ask me what I grew in certain beds this year, I've forgotten already. I'd have to either look back on photos or look back on my plan and see how it's getting on. So we can plan our year ahead now, ready for next year. And then the other thing that we need to plan is what we're going to be growing. And as you know, I get really excited about buying seeds. I buy seeds when I don't really need to buy seeds, but I just waste money on buying seeds. It's an addiction. I can't help it. But yeah, I just buy loads of different seeds. And I either look on Amazon and I type in like poppy varieties, which is why I've got loads of different varieties of poppies this year to grow, or I'll get a seed catalogue and I'll have a look through the seed catalogue and tick which ones I want and order them that way. But I do like to grow all different varieties of seeds. I don't like to stick to bog standard varieties. I like to grow unusual uh, varieties that you won't see in shops or supermarkets to eat. And yeah, that's what makes it more exciting. And if you're getting different coloured vegetables as well, they're not just the bog standard green ones like most of the veg. It's good to have some colour in your allotment and in your garden as well. How I basically plan for my year ahead. And obviously, I watch a lot of videos as well, and obviously, watch Gardener's World and different gardening programs and see what varieties they're growing and how well they're growing, because it's always good to get feedback off other people. Like, yeah, you might see seeds online or something like that, and you think, oh, I might give that a try. But if you've seen somebody else grow it and if they've had success from it, it's always good to try stuff what you know will do well. And there's obviously a lot of fake sites as well online where you can buy purple bananas or black cauliflowers and stuff like that, but never get suckered into buying any of those because they are all fake, a lot of them. And hopefully, like the online stores, keep on top of that and get rid of those fake sellers. But there is a lot of different coloured variety of vegetables out there which are real and which are legit. So if you are looking at buying seeds, make sure you're buying them from a legit seed company on Amazon, not just a random seller. But yeah, I'm excited for next year and I'm excited for the new things that we're going to try and the old things that we're going to keep on doing what we did last year, which did really well. Because obviously, we grew all our potatoes in tubs last year and they did absolutely fantastic. We did some garlic last year, that was amazing. The sweet corn always does well. We grew that in a different position this year. And yeah, as peas was the best peas that we've ever grown on my allotment, ever. I've never had a successful year as I did last year with my peas. And hopefully we can continue and do that again. As what I did with my peas this year, rather than sow them all into the ground, which I've done in the past, and they'll get eaten by rats, mice, and slugs when they pop in through, we sowed them all in seed trays first, and then we planted them out when they were big enough to be able to handle themselves. And they did the absolutely amazing, the best seeds that I've ever, well, the best peas that I've ever had, and they tasted absolutely delicious. So we're gonna, that's the thing, like, as well, like I always say, obviously, with that logbook, is that write down your successes, write down your failures and what worked well and what didn't work well. And if it worked fantastic, good, try it again next year and hopefully I'll have success. But I've done that in the past. I like, if I've had a success with something and then I try it again the next year and it's absolutely failed, and I'm thinking, what have I done wrong? What have I done differently? But at the end of the day, it's all down to gardening and it's all down to the weather as well. And sometimes things will do well, sometimes things will do rubbish. And yeah, that's the joy of gardening. You win some, you lose some, and never get disheartened by anything that you grow. Just keep trying, try and try again. So that is how we will plan for a successful spring next year. Being organised, being planned, and getting prepared, ready for next year. So I hope you found those tips useful. Get yourself a logbook, draw yourself a plan, and have a look in those seed catalogues ready for next year. Until next time, everyone, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Gardening with Ben. I hope you have found some useful tips and inspiration for your own gardening and allotment journey. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new episode. And if you have a moment, I'd love for you to leave a review and share the podcast with fellow gardening enthusiasts. Your support helps us grow this community and continue bringing you great content. You can also follow us on social media on every platform called Gardening with Ben for daily gardening tips and updates. Happy gardening, and until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with